I wanted to first show you the end result of everything. This is the string holder on the end. It's all nice and rounded off. I didn't have to move the nut down. Didn't have to put dots in. The frets are great. I've got the strings on here. It's the Daddario Extra Light. And I've got the 0.011 on top and the 0.015 as a second string, and that's a good balance on those. And put on this piece here because these tuners will jab into your chest. So I put this on here. I think I made another video on this. It's just a bunch of cardboard with some grocery bag on the outside, and I stained it and filed it. But that's glued on there, the good old plumber's goop. And made the back plate with some Velcro. And what we're going to look at is a preamp in this video. And then I got some paracord, I think from Amazon, and it fits right around there. Because when you put a strap on here, when you're playing, the back of your wrist is constantly hitting the strap right there. So this little rig works out really good like that. So here we go with the video. Here's how I made the preamp, and I'll put links to the other videos in the description. All right, I've got this really cool Traveler guitar here, and I got it because it's super small and it sounds great. It's got the shadow pickup in it. It's got the white dots. The other model has black dots, so they're kind of hard to see. I'm going to shave this down later in the video because of all these sharp corners. It's just ridiculous. You could cut somebody with that. So anyway, it's just a straight out right here. It doesn't have a volume control. So I took that plate off and took a look in there, and it is a switchable switch. So I'm going to unsolder all that and put in a volume control. And with that idea, on eBay, you can find this kit. It's got this little piece here. I tore this piece off, and there's also a guard that goes over this. I broke that off so I could solder these test leads on. I rigged it up just with a jack, and it sounds really good. It balances out the sound. So I thought, well, how can I rig this in here? You know, this is going to be kind of like that. It's going to be, it's not going to fit in there. So I looked on eBay, and I happened to find this really cool circuit box, project box. It's got two halves with screws. So I'm going to put it on here like this. That plate that's on here, I'm going to put it inside and mark the holes to where I can use the same screws and just mount it like that and have the controls here. Turns out the volume up goes this way and goes down that way, and the tone up here and the tone down goes that way. So that was pretty convenient. Look at this. This thing fits right in here. I mean, wow. So I'm going to get maybe a jeweler's saw and whack off these wings here. And there's this piece here where the screw's going to go. I think that's just part of the guard on this. So I'm going to cut that, maybe cut an angle. And then maybe mount this whole thing with a piece of wood and a screw right there. And glue the wood in there with some adhesive. And I don't know, see if there's a hole here. I'm going to have to make a hole for that screw. But I think there'll be just enough room in there for these wires with the extra piece and the cover to keep this these jacks the way they are. if it was like this, maybe just enough room to curve these over, maybe not. You'll have to see. But even so, that's really close. So that's that. And then, of course, there's the battery. So where do you put the battery? Huh? Okay. Well, on eBay, you can get this little battery box. And it's got a switch. But I thought, yeah, you could fit it there. But then you don't really need the switch on here because it's going to switch on the jack, you know, like a regular guitar. So the battery will fit in there. Goes like that. And you just get the hacksaw and whack it off right there to where the battery fits in. And glue it on here, and then put some Velcro around to hold the battery in there. And then run the terminals under that Velcro. And then maybe drill a hole and sneak into the box. And by the way, I'm going to make a port in the middle, just a port here to go into that hole to run everything down in there. So maybe the battery cable, of course, will have to be the size of that white connector. So maybe a 1/4 inch hole there and there. Go in. So I think this will be a fun project. It's probably going to take me all day, but anyway, that's where I'm going with this thing. All right, here's the volume cover. So I want it to go on the guitar like that. So that's where the plate is. And I'm going to drill the holes from this side. So I got it lined up, kind of left to right, and then up and down this way. So I'm going to drill straight down there. All right, before I get too far, I wanted to get a sound check on the original pickup sound. So here's my trusty crate and everything straight up on the controls there for bass and treble and all that. So it sounds pretty harsh, right? So anyway, that's kind of a rough sound check. All right, here it is rigged up with the preamp. All right, so I got this circuit board and a wood clamp. Not putting much pressure on here at all, you know, to hold it, but I got a piece of paper and a Sharpie and drew a line along that tangent there, so it's going to have that. And I got this jeweler's saw, so I'm going to try to cut from the top and not touch the knobs here, so I hope this goes well. I was able to cut through everything pretty good with this, at this angle with the jeweler's saw. And then use a file here this way. And I had to put my finger on the top on the other side here to where it doesn't jump off like this because I don't want to hit that beige circuit there. So, you know, it kind of went across like this. And I think it's looking pretty good. I'm going to have to take the tape off. I put the tape on there so I don't scratch the knobs. I'll kind of know where the bottom limit is. So I may need to put it back on there and get a little bit more off. I'm going to put it at the box here and see how far the knobs stick up. I'm going to assume that this plastic box is kind of the same thickness all the way around. So just kind of eyeballing it. It looks like there'll be enough for those knobs to stick out like that. All right. So the next part is I'm going to see if I can get it to fit in this box. And then I'm going to mark some holes here and drill and make a trough for each of these. All right, we're back here on Time Waster TV. So this is the original jack on the Fishman rig. So where those connectors are, it's actually going this way. But you got red, this going to ground, so that's switched. And then the white goes in the middle third one. And then on the Traveler, they got it rigged up where black is always on and it's not switched. So it's the same kind of jack, it's just this one's a lot shorter, which is cool. You know, they make them short. So then we want it to be switched like that. They have the hot on this leg, like there. So I guess it doesn't make any difference. Once it plugs in, I might switch those to where this is on ground. And so then it'll be rigged up like this on the wiring on the board. So then where this is, this looks pretty good. You know, it's hanging out. And it's got some overhang there like that. That's kind of cool. It's very cool. I might move the right side up a little bit if I can. So where this thing closes like this, it's looking like this. That trough for the screw hits it right there. It's that white part. So I'm thinking I'll just file that whole piece off on the inside, just flat. And then to get the screw through there, I'm going to drill a hole right there very carefully. But you can see this is hitting, the knob's hitting the right side. So I'm going to whack off some of this right here, like right below the word input. And then make a cut going across to make room for that. Then I'll move the whole thing over to the left just a skosh. And then I can make my target for the hole. And then when the case closes, of course this is going to be buried in there, maybe 1/8 of an inch, to where this doesn't hit the volume knob on the edge. Because those guys, I'm hoping they'll be kind of midways in here. So it's just a rough idea. I'll see how it goes. I marked a spot on here with a Sharpie and it got to this point. So the jeweler saw I can make it through the circuit board. I'm going to try to cut a diagonal right through here. So this blade is not a hacksaw blade. It's just more for wood. But I got a whole bag of these blades, so I'm going to see if I can just whack right through here. The little jeweler saw cut right through that like butter, so I'm going to file this off and get to the next step. All right, that worked. I used an 11/16 bit and no pilot hole, just went for it. And that worked out pretty good. I had to use this little file, you know, one of these little jobs, and file a little bit this way, kind of right in that corner to make enough room for the screw. So I'll mark this off with some tape and kind of got a center line on these, and then on the back side, on the inside of the plastic there, kind of where the knob would come across here. And that side, and same on the other. So we're looking at it this way here. 16th, and the board is 1/4. The 16th gap, the 8th slot. So all that's 3/8. So I went from the back, just kind of eyeballing it with a ruler. Yeah, a really crude ruler here. 3/8 to there, then the 1/8 inch slot. So it looks pretty good when I put the board on the outside. That's going to be tight. You might be able to breathe in there or think or something, but anyway, I'm going to drill those and then maybe I could file a skosh one way or the other, but I think that's pretty good. Okay, I used a 7/64 bit and drilled 3 holes, and now I'm using an X-Acto to smooth out the edges and cut along on the inside, and you can flip it around and kind of get another angle, you know, if you're right-handed like this. And in my file kit, I've got this square file. So I'm going to get in here and kind of square this up and then put the board in there and see how close it is and just widen it a bit or whatever. All right, it's been about 2 hours, but it works. I think I was right with these measures here for the edges going this way. So now I've got a bit of a gap, but the thing was, it's that screw hole, that piece of plastic was hitting when it goes down. I just didn't think about it, but anyway, it goes in. I'm going to take the tape off and clear out the rubbing gaps there. But I'm going to put a screw right in here to keep it from moving around. I'm going to glue that in with some contact adhesive. And it's this birch that's about 3/16. So I cut a tiny piece and taped it between the solder pieces there. So when I do the final, I'm going to put the screw on there to hold it in place and then glue this front edge and just let it dry and then unscrew it and take the thing out. I made some progress with all this. I got everything to fit in here, and I noticed I needed to put some cardboard in there to space just a bit to keep these lined up. And I made a piece of wood and I put a screw in here and cut it to length and then glued it on the back. Like had it all screwed in there and then glued it on the back and then unscrewed it. And so that'll anchor it in there. And then went ahead and connected all the wires on the terminals in there. This is the original Traveler jack, so it's loose right now. And on the original cable, this gray was pretty stiff, so I just got some shrink wrap and like skinned the whole thing and made a shrink wrap cover to where it's shorter, and glued those on the back in that direction because it's going to sit like that, and then glued the pickup in there. Drilled a hole in here because when this is sitting over here, I'm going to have the battery running up through here into there, and that's where I super glued this, and I'm going to put Velcro on here and wrap it around, probably the fuzzy part coming around like this, and then the hooks over here. So drilled a hole in there, and I'm going to glue that on there, no screws. So then the next step, I'm going to take the strings off and run this wire across here through there and solder onto the terminals over on this other one over here on the back side. And I can't hold the camera while I'm doing that, so I'm going to just get it all wired up and hopefully it'll work. All right, this all turned out pretty good. I got the battery box glued on, and I've got a hole over here for the cable. I'm going to put Velcro around here to wrap around to cover the whole cap, and probably even a piece of foam in the back so it's got some spring action to push against the Velcro. And you got this Velcro. It's a little bit shorter. I cut it about 1/8 of an inch off this side because the box was hitting it when once I got it screwed on. So it still needed to be shorter. But anyway, I wanted it to cover the 6th string. This thing got the wires crammed down in there pretty good, tightened the end piece, And you can see, see I've got a light here. That's kind of what it looks like underneath in there. You wouldn't have enough room for the wood block to put the screw in the center, and then the terminals on the right and the left for the plastic. And have your pickup wire come around this way. So I'm going to put the cover on and move on to other stuff on the guitar. This is a clear plan of what I did. This is the original Traveler jack. Black on ground, white is the hot on the tip there. That's the original Fishman preamp, where the white wire is the switch and the red is hot. This is the layout of everything from the back side. So you want to run the wires down this way, just solder them down on the terminals, and you'll be running through the porthole over to the jack, through the plastic box over to the jack. And this is when it's flipped over into the box. You'll have your pickup wire coming around from the back side over here because it's not going to fit. It's too tight with that aluminum plate on the back side. And this is going to be the jack, but you're not using this side, you're soldering from the other side. So if you have the other white clip over here, you can get an X-Acto and cut a slot for the wire to go through. So this is what it all looks like. I had to put a little bit of a buffer here, cardboard, to kind of shore this up. And I got the wood block in there with the screw, and it didn't go in very far, so at least it's barely holding. And see where I have this white clip, I had to cut that with an X-Acto to let that go through. And those lined up really good. I mean, it's like less than a millimeter, but I might need to readjust that a skosh. And then it goes across over the battery. So that's it. I'm going to glue the Velcro on here, going around. All right, I got everything set here. I got the preamp on here, the volume and the tone. Everything worked out. I had to shave it down here just a little bit. Not really, but the way these rollers move, they actually pull in toward the center, but it was hitting this edge, so I shaved that a little bit. Got the battery box on here with the Velcro, and going around here, this is the spiky hooks glued onto the plastic, and this is the fuzzy part on the outside, and the wire running across there. So this is what it sounds like. It's a Thunder. So loud I had to turn the amp down. Yeah, and on the volume, this is maybe a 2. I mean, if I cranked it up, it's going to be really loud, but it's got plenty of thump